Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at what could be a total rewrite of the laws of reality. The idea? That the universe isn't just winding down into chaos, but is actually hardwired to build things up.
You know, for over a century now, physics has been guided by these ironclad laws of thermodynamics. They're like the absolute bedrock, right? They tell us how energy behaves in pretty much everything, from a star burning light years away to the engine in your car.
And honestly, the story they tell, it's kind of a bummer. The takeaway seems to be that everything, everywhere, is just slowly but surely falling apart. It's all moving from order to complete and utter chaos, and there's no going back.
But what if that's only half the story? I mean, if that's the whole truth, how do you explain the fact that the universe is so incredibly good at building things? So today, we're going to dive into a radical new theory. And it doesn't just poke holes in that old story of decay. No, it flips the entire script. It suggests that creation, that building up order, is the real law of the land.
All right, so to really get this, let's do a super quick refresh on the rules we thought we knew. These are the classic laws that have been in the physics textbooks for a very long time.
Okay, so there are three of them. The first law? Basically, you can't win. You can't just make energy out of thin air. The second law? You can't even break even. Some energy always gets wasted as disorder, what scientists call entropy. And the third law says you can't quit the game. You can never get to absolute zero, this state of perfect quiet. So put them all together and you get a universe where there's a limited amount of juice and it's all heading towards chaos, inevitably.
But, and this is a big but, there's this massive puzzle that just doesn't quite fit with those laws. It's a paradox that's been staring us in the face forever, really. You can see it in the night sky, you can see it when you look in the mirror.
Think about it. If the universe's main job is to break things down, then how on earth do you explain all the incredible, complex stuff we see everywhere? The old laws are great at explaining how things decay, but they're not so great at explaining how they get built in the first place.
I mean, look up. The universe didn't just stay some boring, uniform cloud of cosmic dust. No way. That simple matter started pulling itself together. And over billions of years, that self-organization just kept going, building on itself to create these massive, structured things like stars and planets and whole galaxies. That's not chaos, right? That's cosmic construction on a grand scale.
And then you bring it down to Earth, and the story gets even crazier. The same thing happens with biology. Life started out with tiny, simple single cells.
But then, through evolution, it organized itself into these incredibly complex ecosystems, all the way up to us, to beings that can think and talk and be conscious. You know, life itself feels like the ultimate counterargument to a universe that's supposedly all about falling into disorder.
So, this new theory we're talking about? It looks at all this, and it doesn't see a paradox. It sees a clue. It says the old laws aren't wrong, not at all. They're just incomplete. They're describing one piece of the puzzle, but not the whole thing.
Okay, so first it goes after energy conservation. And this is a wild idea. What if time is a kind of energy? The theory says that every second that ticks by is actually being spent or consumed to build and hold together complex things, like you and me. So if you're constantly spending time as an energy source, well then the total energy in the system isn't really constant, is it?
Next up, it totally redefines the second law. We're used to thinking of entropy as waste, right? Useless, disordered energy. But in this new model, entropy is the hero of the story. It's the engine of creation itself. It's not about decay, it's about transformation. It's the mechanism that frees up energy so it can be reused to build something new, something more complex, something more ordered.
And finally, the third law. The theory argues that this state of absolute zero is basically a fantasy. It's a mathematical concept, not something that can happen in the real world. Why? Because if time is this fundamental force that's always pushing forward, always an active process, then how can anything ever come to a complete and total stop? The universe, it seems, is never truly at rest.
So, you see, the linchpin to this whole thing is completely rethinking what entropy is. It's the key that unlocks this totally new way of looking at the cosmos. Suddenly, Entropy isn't the big bad villain anymore.
The original theory, which comes from German, has this perfect line. It says, Entropie ist kein Maß für Unordnung, sondern ein Maß für Ordnung im Übergang, which translates to something really profound. Entropy is not a measure of disorder, but a measure of order in transition.
So what does that actually mean? It means entropy is the process that lets a star be born from a cloud of gas. It's what lets a conscious being evolve from simple cells. It's a measurement of the growth of organized, meaningful structure. In this new picture, entropy is what makes evolution, and I mean evolution in the biggest possible sense, actually happen.
And this slide just lays it all out, this total flip in perspective. The old way of thinking, order is a lucky accident. It's this tiny little island in a vast, endless ocean of chaos. But with this new idea, order is the default setting. It's the universal trend. And chaos, that's just a pit stop, a temporary phase between one kind of order and the next, even more complex kind of order.
So let's talk about what this all means. What are the big takeaways? Because this really does build toward a completely different, and I gotta say, a more optimistic view of the universe, and where we fit into it. If this new way of thinking is right, it means the cosmos we live in is, at its core, creative. The fundamental laws are actually pushing it to build more and more complex stuff. And from that point of view, life, consciousness, they stop looking like these unbelievable lucky accidents. They start to look like predictable, maybe even inevitable, results of a universe that's programmed for becoming.
And this really gets to the core philosophy of it all. The source material puts it this way: a theory that can only explain things passing away or decaying, well, it's only explaining half of what's real. A truly complete theory has to also explain how things come to be in the first place.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end on. For more than a century, science has been focused on finding and perfecting the laws of decay. But what would we find if we started actively looking for the laws of creation? What other amazing principles of order and becoming have we missed just because we weren't even looking for them?